All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into the world of vintage computing,
Ooh, vintage computing.
but with a bit of a modern twist.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so we got some really interesting listener submissions about this thing called Blue SCSI.
Blue SCSI.
Have you heard of this?
I have not.
So it basically lets you use modern storage, like SD cards,
Oh, wow.
on old school computers.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of stuff to look at. We've got their website to see what they're all about,
Okay.
a peek under the hood with their GitHub repository,
Ooh, nice.
and even a YouTube video of it in action.
All right, I am ready to dive in.
So first things first, like what even is this Blue SCSI thing?
Well, from what I'm seeing on the website and their GitHub, it seems like it's basically this device that lets vintage computers use modern storage like SD cards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it uses a Raspberry Pi Pico to do this.
Oh, cool.
Which is interesting because those little Raspberry Pi Picos, they're like the Swiss Army knives of microcontrollers.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, you could do so much with them.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah, so it's almost like it's translating between an old computer that speaks like ancient Greek or something
Right.
and a modern SD card that speaks fluent English.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So it's bridging that gap.
Exactly. And the reason why this is so cool is because back in the day, computers used this thing called SCSI.
The CSI.
Yeah. Small computer system interface to connect things like hard drives and optical drives.
Oh, okay. So that's like the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
And those are probably pretty hard to come by these days, right?
Oh, yeah. Finding a working vintage SCSI drive is like finding a unicorn.
Wow.
It's rare, it's expensive, and it's probably going to break down any minute.
That makes sense.
So Blue SCSI comes in with this like really elegant solution that's both affordable and reliable because you can pick up an SD card at any store, pop it into a Blue SCSI setup, and boom, your vintage machine is suddenly rocking modern storage.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking at their website here, and it looks like they've even got different versions of Blue SCSI.
Okay.
They've got like external ones, internal ones. They even have special ROM sims and custom VRAM.
Yeah, so those ROM sims are essentially memory modules for vintage computers.
Oh, okay.
And that VRAM is video memory, so that's super crucial for visuals.
That makes sense.
And it looks like they're having a sale right now, too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the external and internal Blue SCSI boards are going for $54 Canadian.
Okay.
ROM sims are $30, and the custom VRAM is only $25.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, why go through all this trouble? Like, why not just use a modern computer if you need modern storage?
Well, that's where the passion for vintage computing really kicks in.
Okay, I see.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about preserving history, appreciating those early innovations, and experiencing computing as it once was.
Hmm.
Plus, some vintage computers were designed for very specific tasks, or they use software that just doesn't exist anymore. Like, imagine firing up a classic graphic design program on its original hardware glitches.
Oh, wow.
It'd be like stepping back in time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and speaking of stepping back in time, you found this awesome YouTube video where someone is showing off their tricked-out Macintosh SE30.
Oh, yeah, this video is amazing.
It even has a limited edition red-blue SCSI called the Satanic Mac Club edition.
I love that name.
It's pretty epic, and what's even more impressive is the sheer amount of work that went into this SE30. They've got a vintage color display card, a sound emulator, custom LEDs, a recapped motherboard.
Yeah, and 128 millibit of RAM.
Oh, yeah, don't forget the 128 millibit of RAM.
It's a monster.
Yeah, that's like unheard of back then.
And they even mentioned all this other cool vintage hardware like Bell F's drum hard drive emulator, a bezel bulb LED activity indicator,
Yeah.
a 12-volt power monitor called the Rominator.
Oh, wow, the ROM
And they're running OS 7.5.5.
It's amazing.
That's a mouthful.
It really paints a picture of a dedicated vintage computing enthusiast who just loves bringing these machines back to life. And there's even a sense of humor in the video where the creator admits that some of these add-ons are kind of useless and silly.
I love that.
It shows that this is a hobby driven by passion, not practicality.
Exactly.
It's about the joy of tinkering and the satisfaction of getting those old systems humming again.
I get it.
And for those who are itching to get their hands dirty, the Blue SCSI GitHub repository is like a gold mine.
Oh, really?
It's packed with schematics, firmware, code documentation, everything you need to understand the guts of Blue SCSI.
Wow.
And it's not just for looking either. It's a truly collaborative project. People can report bugs, suggest improvements, even modify the code and contribute back to the project.
It's like a global team of vintage computing enthusiasts.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It's the beauty of open source.
Yeah. Building upon each other's knowledge and making things better together.
Exactly. And speaking of building, I saw that they mentioned Gerbers in the repo.
Gerbers.
Yeah, Gerbers are basically blueprints for printed circuit boards. So you need them if you want to get the physical Blue SCSI boards manufactured.
That makes sense.
And they even mentioned a popular PCB fabrication service called JLC PCC.
So they've thought of everything.
It seems like it.
They've really made it accessible for anyone who wants to dive into the DIY side of things.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've talked about what Blue SCSI is. We've talked about why it's so cool for vintage computing. And we've even peeked at some of the nitty-gritty details on GitHub. But there's still so much more to explore. You ready to keep diving?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome.
I'm eager to see what other fascinating nuggets we can unearth. You know, it's actually kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
What's that?
That like a tiny little Raspberry Pi Pico, you know, something that costs just a few bucks,
Yeah.
can unlock a whole new way of interacting with these vintage computers.
It really is like having a time machine in your pocket.
It is.
Okay, so we know that Blue SCSI is great for like breathing new life into old computers.
Right.
But I'm curious about the practical side of things, like what can you actually do with it?
Well, think about it.
Right.
Back in the day, a lot of these computers were designed for very specific tasks.
Yeah.
Or they used software that's basically vanished from the face of the earth.
Like those old school graphic design programs or like music production software.
Exactly.
Like stuff that would probably make modern creatives scratch their heads.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If they saw it.
So with Blue SCSI, you could potentially like load that vintage software onto an SD card and run it on the original hardware.
Wow.
No emulators, no compromises.
The authentic experience.
The authentic
Yeah.
experience, quirks and all.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you could literally like step back in time and experience those creative workflows like firsthand.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And for like collectors, you know, Blue SCSI offers a way to preserve and showcase these machines in their full glory.
Right.
Instead of them just gathering dust in a basement, they become interactive exhibits, you know, windows into the evolution of computing.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Yeah.
It's not just about nostalgia. It's about appreciating the ingenuity of these early machines
Yeah.
and understanding how they paved the way for everything we use today.
It's like a living museum of technology, you know,
Yeah.
where you can actually touch and interact with the artifacts.
I love that.
And speaking of interacting,
Yeah.
remember that decked out Macintosh SC30 from the YouTube video?
Yeah.
The one with the Satanic Mac Club Blue SCSI?
Yeah.
Imagine trying to find a vintage SCSI hard drive with 128 millibyte of storage for that machine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, if you could even find one, it would probably cost a fortune.
Yeah. And be about as reliable as like a flip phone in a rainstorm.
Exactly. Blue SCSI just bypasses all of that.
Yeah.
You just grab a modern SD card, which are super cheap and plentiful, and you're good to go.
Plug and play.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
So if you could pick any vintage computer to revive with Blue SCSI, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know, right?
I've always had a soft spot for the Amiga.
Oh, the Amiga, yeah.
Those graphics were mind-blowing back in the day.
I remember.
Remember that copper list magic?
Oh, yeah, those vibrant colors and that iconic startup sound.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Imagine playing classic Amiga games on the original hardware powered by Blue SCSI.
Yeah.
Be a total blast from the past.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think I would go for an old Apple II,
Oh, yeah.
the one with the rainbow logo.
A classic.
I'd love to experience those early educational games and kind of see where it all began for Apple.
There's something special about those early machines.
It really is.
They had such a unique character,
Yeah.
and they really pushed the boundaries of what was possible at the time.
And thanks to projects like Blue SCSI, we can continue to explore and appreciate that history firsthand.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a reminder that technology is constantly evolving,
Right.
but the ingenuity and the creativity behind it are timeless.
Speaking of timeless,
Yeah.
we've been so focused on the past. I wonder if Blue SCSI hints at something important about the future.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. What do you mean? I mean, think about it. We're constantly bombarded with new gadgets and updates.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the latest and greatest.
Right.
And forget about the tech that came before. But you know, those vintage computers weren't just stepping stones.
No.
They represent like huge leaps in innovation.
I mean, think about the limitations that those early developers faced.
Yeah, like what?
Tiny amounts of memory,
Oh, yeah.
slow processors,
Uh-huh.
graphics that look like, well, blocky mosaics compared to what we have today.
Right.
But they still managed to create groundbreaking software and experiences.
It's true.
Makes you wonder if sometimes limitations actually boost creativity.
Yeah. It's like they squeezed every ounce of potential out of those systems.
Yeah,
There's a real beauty in that kind of resourcefulness.
absolutely. And it's not just the software either.
What else?
There's something about the physicality of those old machines,
Oh, yeah.
the tactile feel of the keyboards, the whirring of the drives, even those pixelated graphics.
Mm.
That evokes a sense of nostalgia and wonder that's hard to find in today's sleek devices.
Nostalgia for sure, but also a real appreciation for the craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of relief that we don't have to deal with floppy disks anymore.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, as technology keeps accelerating,
Right.
projects like Blue CSI become even more important.
I agree.
It's like they're digital archaeologists carefully unearthing and preserving these technological treasures
That's a great way to put it.
so that future generations can experience and learn from the pioneers who came before them.
Right. Imagine a world where those vintage computers were just forgotten relics.
Yeah.
We'd lose so much history and inspiration.
And maybe even some valuable lessons.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like the way that those early developers problem solved with limited resources.
Right.
That kind of ingenuity could be incredibly relevant as we face new technological challenges in the future.
I think so, too.
It's amazing to think that something as seemingly simple as a SCSI emulator can play such a big role in safeguarding our digital heritage.
It really is.
It really highlights how interconnected technology is, past, present, and future.
I agree. We've come a long way from those early machines, but there's still a part of our technological DNA.
Yeah.
Blue SCSI isn't just about keeping old computers running.
What is it about?
It's about keeping that connection alive.
Well said. I think this deep dive has given us a whole new perspective on vintage computing
yeah,
and the importance of preserving our tech history.
for sure.
Who knew a little device like Blue SCSI could spark such a big conversation?
It's been a fascinating journey exploring everything from the technical nuts and bolts to the philosophical implications.
I agree.
I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to learn even more.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling adventurous,
Yeah.
maybe even dust off an old computer and see what you can create.
Yeah.
Who knows? You might just unearth your own technological treasure.
You never know.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Blue SCSI.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that curiosity burning bright.
See you on the next dive.